The most commonly prescribed exercise for any Achilles or calf injury is the calf raise exercise, where you raise up on your toes and slowly come back down. Now, the problem with a calf raise is if you have any issues with your toes, especially the big toe, like big toe arthritis, or perhaps your big toe's been fused, you can't really go up on your toes because it really loads the toes. So then you need a different option. So in this video, I'm going to demonstrate alternatives to the calf raise exercise if you can't do it, and I'll also share some other tips that my patients find useful. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Maryke. I'm one of the physiotherapists from treatmyachilles.com, where you can get online physiotherapy assessment as well as treatment of any type of Achilles injury, all done via video call. Have a look at the description of this video if you want a link to our website. Also, we've got a weekly newsletter where we just send out all the content we published about Achilles injuries in the previous week. If you want to subscribe to that, have a look at the description of this video. I've also put the link there. So the reason the calf raise exercise causes trouble for toes is that they've got to bend up so much when you raise up. So if you've got any issues in those toes, they really don't like it. Now, whenever we do the calf raise, it's usually on a flat surface. So it's either going to be on the floor or it's going to be on a step. And the problem with that is there's just no space for the toes to go. All they can do is bend up as you lift. So if we can think of a way that we can actually keep those toes a bit straighter as you point your foot down or you move up, that could start to solve the problem. So let's look at a few different ways in which you can do that. Before we get to the exercises, tip number one is to wear supportive shoes. Now, usually when people tell you to wear supportive shoes, it's because they want arch support. But this is not the case here. What we're looking for is the support the hard sole, which mine is quite dirty, is going to offer you. If you think of a foot, it's a very flexible thing. So if we pull on this end, that might bend up more than this bit. Or if we push on a different bit, it may bend in an unpredictable way. Now, if you stick a hard surface underneath it, you get a slightly more predictable movement. So the load is spread more evenly throughout the foot, and it's pulling on this flat surface, moving the foot up and down as a whole. So I would strongly suggest that you wear supportive shoes when you do any of these exercises or all of these exercises. The first exercise we're going to do for this is one using an exercise band. I'm going to show you two positions because we can actually target where we do the exercises better by either sitting on a chair or sitting flat on the floor. So you'll notice that I've got my shoes on to provide stability, and you want to hook the band around the front of the foot. Because our knee is slightly bent, we're going to use the soleus muscle, the lower portion of the calf muscle more. And ideally, we want to train it in both positions eventually. So all you do is you're going to, I want mine more on the ball of the foot. There we go. You're going to push down slowly and slowly bring it back up. Now, watch how far you bring it back up, because if you have an insertional Achilles tendon injury, it's not going to like you bringing it all the way up into that position, because then the insertional point is stretching over the calf bone, and that can often irritate it. We've done loads of videos about insertional Achilles injury specifically, so go have a look at those as well. It will help you understand this injury better. So if you've got an insertional one, I would stop there at a 90-degree angle to start with, or maybe just a little bit higher, and not work into full pulling the foot back. So you're pointing it down and slowly back. And the value of the exercise with the band is that slow eccentric return that you're working on. So you're really, really slowing the movement down as you bring it back up. I would sit with my legs straight as well and do this exercise flat on the floor as well, so that I can get the gastroc muscle a bit more. It can be difficult to get a heavy enough resistance when you're just using the bands. And what my patients find work for them is that, one, they work on really slowing that eccentric part down. Two, they build up to many more repetitions than what they would normally do. So usually we work with heavy weights to 10 to 15 repetitions. If you're using an exercise band, I would build up to 25 to 30 repetitions eventually in one set, and do about 3 to 4 sets. But then, of course, you have different levels of resistance band with more resistance to them, and you can even double up, that you use 2 bands in one go. But as with all rehab plans for Achilles injuries, remember, it's not about trying to do as many exercises as you can every single day. It's about thinking about your load management and slowly building it up. The next option we've got is an isometric exercise. Now, I like this option because you can actually load it quite heavy. Again, we're going to look at how far the foot is going below the step, because if it's insertional or anything, you don't really want to be hanging in isometrics in a stretch position. You rather want it to be neutral or slightly up. But because we're thinking about toes not like being bent, we're going to try and keep it neutral for this demonstration. So you do need a step because we want the heel to be free over the side of the step as we stand there. I don't have a step where I can properly demonstrate the exercises for the camera, so I've rolled up my exercise mat. It's not that stable, so I'm not going to show you single leg versions. I'm going to show you the double leg versions. And that's the other thing with the standing exercises. If you have any issues with toes, especially big toes, then sometimes just sticking to double leg raises is a better option because you have more stability and you can still load them quite heavily. So I would always work that you've got really good control and endurance with the double leg ones before moving on to any single leg ones. And some of my patients just do double leg. They don't ever start single leg ones, and that is absolutely fine. They also get better. So use what works best for you. Okay, so what we're doing here is you've got a step or a book or something of that regard. And what you want is your feet to be supported steadily on the front, but your heels hanging over the side. Now, you'll see that my heels are pretty much in neutral. They're not raised up, but you could raise a little bit in this position if you wanted. Also, because I'm using the rolled up mat, it does allow my foot to go forwards without bending my toes so much. And that's the next exercise I'm going to demo. So this is actually a useful way that you could potentially keep it in a different position as well. Just don't hang with it there for isometrics because that's in a stretch position. You want the muscles to work at least. Now, if it's happy to hold it in just that position with body weight, you start adding weights and you usually work for about holding it for 30 seconds. See if you can do 4 or 5 repetitions of that with a good rest in between. So 1 to 2 minutes, build it up to where you could do a minute. And then when you add weight, you cut the whole time down and you build it back up again. So that's a good option if you are able to do stuff in standing. But again, remember, double leg is usually better to start with. Moving on to single leg later is a good way to make it more challenging. If you're finding this information useful, please remember to hit like and subscribe. It really helps the channel. I didn't know what to call this exercise, so I'm calling it the seesaw calf raise. And basically, if we think of the problem with a calf raise is it causes your toes to bend up, and that causes the pain usually. So if we can keep the toes slightly straight as we raise up, you may still be able to do a calf raise. And one of the most useful things for that is a rolled up mat like I've got here, and I've tied it just with a TheraBand so it can't go anywhere. You just need something that's going to allow you to have a pivot point that your toes have some space to move. Now, you may not be able to do a full calf raise because you'll likely slide off the front, but you will get some height and you'll be able to drop back down as well. So it can bring in a bit of that eccentric component and give you a slightly bigger range to move through. Absolutely, you can use things like yoga blocks and stuff, but if you're going to use a narrow yoga block and they're quite thick, then it has a way of tipping when you get to the front of it. So think about what you're using, that it's stable, that it don't end up tipping you over, because then you're really going to hurt your toes. It's quite simple. All you do is I've got my mat here. Again, we're going to start with double leg because it's just easier to control. And you have to find the perfect spot for you, for your feet on there. And you can see as I lift up, my toes are staying straight. I'm feeling the pressure on the balls of my feet. And then I can come down. And if I don't have insertional Achilles issues, I can go all the way back down and then come back up again. If I have insertional, I would likely just stop there and come back up. So I would limit the amount of stretch there. Remember, we've got videos about insertional. You may want to go look at them there. Again, you could do it on a single leg. Let's see if I'm stable enough to do it here. I've got something solid to hold on to. But I would only go for single leg once you're really good with a double leg, even with extra weight, and then work on this. How I would put all of these things together is, say for instance, you can only do the band exercise and the isometrics. Then I would load up on the isometrics and I would use the exercise band to get the eccentric component. So you can really combine and match these things, that you don't have to do all your Achilles exercises by just doing one version. You can add them all in together. Please remember that with Achilles rehab, it's not about how much you can add onto the Achilles. It is an overuse injury, so if you ramp up your exercise too quickly, you will actually make it worse. So you've got to think about that total load. Now, obviously, all of these things are stuff we can demonstrate and help and correct you with online as well. So if you want advice about your injury and assessment or anything like that, this is the type of thing we can help with via video call. Also, other things that my patients find useful is sometimes it's just about thinking about the number of repetitions you're doing. Often it's not actually the weight that's the issue. They can do up to 8 reps with the weight and go up and down and it doesn't cause any trouble. But if they do more repetitions, then the toes start to complain. So some of my patients find that if they limit always to 8 repetitions, give a good rest between, and then just do more sets of it, that can be a solution as well. But play with it. You've got different options. And remember, you don't have to do just one thing. You can mix and match them as well. Brilliant. Hope you found that useful. If you've got any questions, just ask them in the comments. If you want more help with your injury, you're welcome to consult one of the team via video call. Link is in the description. And remember to hit like and subscribe. It really helps the channel. Take care.